Yeah.
Welcome everybody. It's my honor
Hello.
and pleasure to welcome the iconic Bharatnatyam dancer, Padma Bhushan, Dr. Padma Subrahmanyam. Dr. Subrahmanyam is a scholar, innovator, author, and teacher par excellence. She is also a musician with a master's in Carnatic music. Thank you, madam, for accepting our invite for the podcast. Welcome.
My pleasure.
So let me begin with the question, Padmaji. What inspired you to learn dance? At what age you began to dance, and what made you start? Yeah.
I started when I was 5.
Wow, that was very early. Okay. So what made you? Because at that age, people generally, when I meet children, they are only playing. So what made you just go into dance?
Um, I think I had an aptitude which my parents discovered, and then that led me to serious study. And already there was right atmosphere at home. You may know that my father was a pioneer in the Tamil film industry. He is very affectionately referred to as father of Tamil cinema. His centenary was celebrated when Government of India brought out a postal stamp. It was he who introduced Bharata Natyam MS Subbulakshmi, and there was a lot of music and dance at home. My mother was a composer in Sanskrit, and she was a Vainika, but she never performed anywhere outside. She was a typical, Orthodox Brahmin lady of those days, and all her music and all her compositions were only inside her puja room. But she was a very, very learned, I would say, an artist, but a housewife. And my father, though he was very interested in the film world, he was a freedom fighter and he was a parental personality among the artists. He felt even in late 30s and early 40s that dance was being used only as a step towards entering the film world. And then, they were losing interest in the classical forms. So, with this in his mind, he started a non commercial organization called Nrithyodaya in 1942 and gave free tuition in Bharatnatyam, Manipuri, Kathakali, Mohiniyattam, and folk dances, and also engaged the best of masters whom he paid.
Okay.
So there were big stars who were coming out of this, and as a baby, I was seeing all this. I suppose I was inspired by that.
All right. So nice to hear all this, madam. So, who was your teacher? Did you go out to learn, or you were learning at your home only?
When I was 5, I learned first from one Kausalya. She belonged to the first batch of our Nrityodaya. She was a senior artist there. She used to come home and teach me. But then I was taken to, the great master, Valvur Ramya Pillai, and he only conducted my arangetram, as you call it, the maiden performance.
All right. So, when did you begin to start performing outside, doing shows?
Well, I don't know if I can call it shows. I started, I got on the stage even before my arangetram,
Okay.
and um, my actual official arangetram was in 1956.
Hmm.
And ever since then, I have been till today constantly on the stage.
Wonderful.
God's grace.
Very nice. So, tell us something about your journey in Bharatnatyam. You're an extremely accomplished person. Can you tell us something about?
Well, my love for dance has been and is still there. And it's not as though I wanted to become a famous person. I mean, when you are just 5 years old, you really don't know all that. You don't know whether um, the art is a great art, whether you are being appreciated. And I was, thanks to my father, who was, as I said, a big brother among the senior artists and a father personality for the younger ones.
All right, Padmaji. I have read somewhere you were inspired by the dance sculpture at the Chidambaram temple.
Well, that was when I entered my teens. You will be surprised to know that at Nrityodaya, our dance school, uh, I started teaching when I was 14.
Wow.
My father said I must teach a group of orphans he had chosen,
Okay.
and they were my first students. And teaching became an experience. I started loving teaching because I felt teaching is a process of experience. When you teach, you really gain. So that was the time when I was teaching, I felt there was a gap between what is being taught to us and what I see in sculptures. And I thought there is something more to it. Though I didn't know what I was looking for, I was very sure that there is something more. And so I started reading Abhinay Darpana, English translation by Ananda Kumaraswamy. I used to make notes and I used to give notes to my students, even when I was 14. But then I found a gap between that Lakshana and Lakshya. So I wanted to integrate, fill the gap between theory and practice. This became my goal in life from the time I was just 15 or 16. And then the sculptures inspired me a lot. And I used to wonder why I'm not, the dance sculptures that I saw, particularly in Chidambaram. Chidambaram is on way to our ancestral home. So every time we crossed Chidambaram, we would go naturally have darshan of the Lord. And it was not only the darshan, it was in the Gopuram, the Karana sculptures were there. I didn't even know the name Karana at that time. But it was a big inspiration for me. And every time I came back, it used to haunt me. And I used to try to copy those sculptures in a static position. And well, my quest, my thirst for knowledge was the starting point for my research.
Wonderful. How nice to hear that. So, Padmaji, what challenges you faced in your journey?
Challenges, yes. To be performing very actively and going to college, attending, and in Stella Maris College, we used to have, the nuns used to give us weekly tests. It was not a semester system, but every week we used to have tests in all the subjects that we did. That was a very demanding discipline that we had in the college. But at home, it was a very busy schedule at home also, because my father was also honorary state liaison officer for UNESCO. And top scholars from all over the world used to come. And my father would insist, whether I understood or not, he would ask me to sit there when he was conversing with them. And I think that did a lot of good to me, because not that I understood everything at that time, but it was, my brain was like a computer. It was assimilating, and all those stored information helped me at the right time. They to understand something, to relate, to have an interdisciplinary approach to a subject was all something which I gained because of exposure to real top intellectuals in the world. And so my idea was all my thoughts broadened. I must give that credit to my father.
Oh, nice. Yes, we learn from our seniors. Absolutely correct. Padmaji, you have a center near Mahabalipuram.
That's a more recent one. Bharata Foundation for Asian Culture. It has, I mean, when I spoke about this in public, the first person to appreciate this idea of an Asian corridor, an Asian cultural corridor, that was my dream project. It was no less a person than Dr. Jayalalitha, our former Chief Minister. She immediately came to our mic and said she shares that dream with me, and she appreciated me for not asking her for any grant, because the occasion was Diamond Jubilee of our Nrityodaya. She had come for that. And about 40 years ago, I discovered in my research that Natya Shastra is pan-Indian text. But then slowly I realized that it is pan-Asian. So even when I said pan-Indian, many eyebrows were,
Yes.
I don't know if they raised the eyebrows or it was knitting the brows. So, so it was not easy for people to understand. Even those who liked my dance, they could not believe that we had a common grammar for our performing arts in India. This is something which even critics could not believe. And my vista broadened, and the occasion was my eldest brother Balakrishnan was a documentary filmmaker, cameraman, and director. He was working on a film called Temples and Festivals of Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
And a documentary film producer, director has more challenges than people who are doing feature film. Feature film, you can manage to even change the character or the story if it was necessary. But if it is a documentary on one subject, you have to study. It's like each documentary film is like doing one PhD thesis. So my brother was studying the subject, but he had typhoid and he became very weak. He was bedridden. And my father said, help him sit by his bedside and read all those books on temples for him to assimilate. Let him not strain his eyes. It was really a blessing in disguise, because that opened my vista. I studied most important works on temple architecture, sculpture, and came across my later guru in my research, my guide, Dr. T.N. Ramchandran, because my brother was also in touch with him. So everything fell in the right place, and that's how I started working on the research. And I started my serious research on Natya Shastra even when I had not completed my BA. It started earlier. So I used to regularly go to the college, from the college to my dance class, from the dance class to study under Dr. T.N. Ramchandran about archaeology and history and particularly interpretation of sculpture. So this is how my life was. So always busy.
Padmaji, I have read that you have developed a new form of Bharatnatyam. I think which it has got a new different name also. Can you tell us something about that?
Well, as I was doing research as a dancer, I was not satisfied by putting it all in writing. I had to have a feel of the product of my research in my body. So when I started integrating my practical application with the theoretical knowledge that I was gaining, I started choreographing new numbers and it was very well received. It was so well received by, I should say, two extreme group of people, those who did not know anything about tradition, but who had a love for dance, they enjoyed, and very great scholars like Bharata or Dr. Ramchandran or A.N. Parashuraman, and such people, they saw that I was reconstructing something from a very hoary past and they enjoyed. But some people, a few of them, whom I can't say, I mean, I can't classify them as lay people, nor can I classify them as somebody who had studied ancient texts. They were the people who questioned me. They said that I was doing something sacrilegious. They were the people. It was a small group of people. But still, that group had a strong voice. So my work was, it was in one way breaking tradition, yes. It was breaking the norms of last 2 centuries, but it was going back to a tradition which we had lost 500 years ago. So there are two ways of looking at my work. So I was never angry with anyone who criticized me. I
Yes.
won't call it a new style. I had revived. I had revived an older style, something which was obsolete for 500 years. And to come back to people, I mean, I was talking about for and against my work. I wanted to change the name from Bharatnatyam to Bharata Nrithyam
Yes.
so that this group, which is in between the two ends, they don't expect me to perform something only based on the norms of the last 200 years. I wanted them to understand that what I'm presenting is something uh, different. So I gave another name. And one more thing, Bharatanatyam itself is relatively new nomenclature because Natya actually means drama. Natya is drama which includes dance. And the in the Renaissance, after the anti-Nach movement, when dance came to a halt at the temples, when there was a revival, a group of people preferred to call the older Sadir dance as Bharatanatyam to so that you gain social acceptance. But that Bharatanatyam, that Natya created a lot of confusion, including, scholars also started thinking that that is the most ancient system of dance in India. Whereas the Bharatanatyam that has come down to us from the point of technique and the content is just about 250 years. But it has a connection with an older tradition. That way, all over India, all the dances, all the dance drama traditions have a connection with an older tradition, but that older tradition was forgotten in the sense they don't know theoretically. But the Natya Shastra has been the fountainhead, or I would say the mother of all the various forms, I would say, even in the folk strata. And for even in the from 10th century, following Natya Shastra directly was called Marga, means the path shown by Bharata Muni. And regional interpretations and regional inclusions of their own artistic exercises, I would say, based on regional taste, gave way for what is called Deshi. Deshi is regional. So Bharatanatyam is one of the Deshi. But not only Bharatanatyam, you have all the Manipuri from Manipur, Odissi from Odisha, Kathak. All these are Deshis belonging to the Pradesha. But every Deshi had a link with the original Marga, like how Sanskrit coexisted with all the regional Prakrits or regional colloquial languages. The Marga coexisted with all the Deshis, but the awareness about Marga got lost from 14th century in South India also, and from 12th century in North India. All the post-independence regional dance and dance drama forms have been resurrected, and they have added to the regional glorification. What I have done in the last 50 years is a recreation of the common marga, which connects all the deshis. And it connects not only the deshis of India, India with the present political boundary, but it connects Southeast Asia also. So this is my work. And I had to change the name so that, Nritya is the term that I used, because though Nritya is not a term which is used in Natya Shastra, in post-Bharata period, Nritya came to mean dance which communicates, communicative dance. So that is what we have been doing. There is Abhinaya. Abhinaya means communication. So I preferred to take a technically correct term. I made bold to change the name and also make my critics understand that I'm not following just the norms of the last 200 years. So not only that, I have a regular pedagogy. A pedagogy program is there in my institution. The body training is based on Natya Shastra. Every major and minor limb is trained. And it's not as though I have completely discarded the 200-year-old technique. My dance is an integration of Marga and the Desi called what is called today as Bharatnatyam. It's a combination.
All right. Wonderful explanation. So, Padmaji, I live in South India myself, and I see many small young girls who want to learn Bharatnatyam. So, I want your advice, and viewers are listening. At what age can students enroll, and how many years will it take them to learn Bharatnatyam completely?
I think the right age to start is 7.
7.
And at least 5 years.
5 years.
At least 5 years. We have 5 years Praveshika course, then we have another 2 years of Visharada specialization. Then we have 2 years Nritya Shali course where they specialize in the 108 Karanas of Natya Shastra. We have teachers training course. All that is there. Plus our Nrityodaya is also connected to Shastra University, and we train the students for BFA and MFA in Bharatnatyam, and we have PhD program also.
All right. So this PhD is beyond these 5 years program.
Now, there are two things. Nrityodaya has its own course for right from seventh year. From
Alright.
childhood, they come, they keep learning with us. But then students from other masters, other gurus, from other centers, they come to us for their BFA degree course from Shastra University.
All right.
We are the people here at Nrityodaya. I'm the program director, and Dr. Gayatri Kannan is the coordinator. Nrityodaya is the study center for BFA and MFA in Bharatnatyam,
Okay.
and also we have PhD also.
Wonderful.
We've been doing this for 10 years now.
Great. So, Padmaji, how many hours of training would suffice to become a good dancer? Because I have heard and seen Bharatnatyam is very strenuous. It's not, you take a lot of effort to dance. So, on average, what is the input in number of hours?
Well, if children start at the age of 7, they come here for class for 4 days. So 4 hours a week, definitely. But they have to have their homework. They have to practice every day at least for half an hour at home.
Okay.
And the hours increase as the standard increases.
All right.
It depends on how serious one is. I mean, you want to be a professional, you have to work hard.
Definitely.
And it's better when they start early.
Okay.
The body is supple.
Mm-hmm.
If they start late, it becomes a little difficult.
All right. Got to become tip. So, Padmaji, I want to know, these days in the era of software and technology, many young people want to choose computers as their career. But I would like to ask you, can young girls take Bharatnatyam dance as their career so that they can make a living out of it and they can spend the entire life in this particular stream?
There are many people who are doing that now. Dance has become too popular. I mean, pendulum has swung from one extreme to the other. There was a day when even seeing dance was a taboo. But today, almost every street has a dance school, and almost every family has a dancer. So it has become a very I would think it's an art in Bharatiya Vidya. Whether one becomes a professional or not, it is always nice to learn some art, music, or dance. It gives refinement for thought, word, and action in life. So that way, I think it is extremely nice that our culture is alive. It is alive and popular through music and dance, if not through anything else. This is one area where people still have connection with the past.
Padmaji, you look so fit and happy and peaceful. Are you? What do you do in your daily life? Is there any routine you follow apart from dancing that you would want to share with our viewers? Meditation,
Well,
whatever.
yeah, I do my yoga in the mornings every day. I do my walking, my meditation. These three things are definite. And then, thanks to lockdown and spending time with the family, I'm looking at the brighter side of anything. Everybody is now thinking of home. There is something called home and something called family. I don't think people were remembering that at all. They were running here and there like mad. This has helped them to do some self retrospection, to understand, to have a query into one's own self, a journey into one's own self. Otherwise, it was outward journey. This is for everybody. I'm not meaning myself. It has become a necessity now to sit and ponder over everything, ponder over the individual's relationship with the surrounding and maybe with the entire creation. It's a it's a necessity now, and that alone can keep them out of fear. There is a fear among people. You know, thousands and lakhs of people are dying all over the world. It's not easy to listen to the news. It's so depressing. Some, as I said, keep you, and I'm also listening every day from evening 7 p.m. to 7:45 p.m. Srimad Bhagavatam, being lectured by no less a person than Puja Prema Pandurang. She is a wonderful orator, a preacher, somebody who was professor of English, took voluntary retirement, and she has been preaching. She gives discourses on Ramayana, Gita, and now more than 55 days, every day, there is Bhagavatam discourse. So that is, it's like, Amrit coming into the ears, and it calms you down. And Bhagavatam is walking into the house. It wouldn't have been possible. Usually it is only 7 days. Every preacher gives Saptaham, only 7 days of Bhagavatam. But more than 50 days now, detailed study of Bhagavatam is available online, free.
Free of cost.
Free. I hope everybody will make use of this.
All right. Very nice to hear this. So Padmaji, I have come to the end of the questions I had prepared for you. If there's any message you want to give to our viewers, to a young Bharatnatyam dancer, you're most welcome to give now.
I don't believe in preaching. I advise only my students. Anything given unwanted is not taken properly. But since you've asked me, all that I would like to say is Shanti of your mind is what can give you creativity. If you are tranquil, if you have a liking for tranquility, that itself is a boon. And how can you have that Shanti? You must be at peace with your own self. Contentment. See, there are two things. Self-confidence is one thing. Contentment is another thing, which keeps you engaged in what you are personally perceiving. So if we can avoid gossip, which brings in envy, jealousy, you are an absolutely person with all that tranquility. Be happy with what you are. You are ordained to be somebody, and you have to be very happy with your own self. So actually, when somebody asked me, one of the journalists had asked me, how can you be so creative? Each performance is so different, so creative. I said, I take care of my business. I'm not I'm not. Um, I'm not a gossip monger. I don't like that, and I appreciate. I appreciate every other artist, even a child. One has to be a rasika. To be a rasika is a boon. It's an enjoyment because the word rasa itself is nothing but it's an enjoyment that we in loving the whole world. Make love a universal thing, something which will make you calm. That's the best thing to do. Nishkamya karma.
Wonderful. Wonderful to hear about your thoughts. Thank you so much, Padmaji, once again for coming to our podcast. I learned so much from you today. I'm sure the viewers have also learned. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you. Nice talking to everybody. My best wishes to everybody.